right. Welcome to Wowed by Zones, a podcast about reviewing every zone in MMO World of Warcraft. I'm Ari.
I'm Torin, and I'm looking forward to being wowed by zones and not zoned by wows.
This again. God damn it.
I'm Eowyn, and I'm looking forward to talking about how sexy Vol'jin is.
Yes.
Yes. So yes, we have added a
important part
new
of the zone.
Exactly.
we have added a new person to the podcast. We are all siblings, and we all have been playing World of Warcraft for just as long as each other.
Yeah,
It was nepotism.
like 6 weeks, something like that. Yeah.
6 weeks? Yeah, since 2006. That was 6 weeks ago.
Probably.
She started in 2005. Anyway, let's get to it. The zone we're going to be looking at today is Durotar, the starting zone for orcs and trolls. We'll start with vanilla Durotar. And would you like to get ready to get started?
Yeah, so vanilla Durotar starts in the Valley of Trials, which is 10,000 times better than our last reviewed beginning zone.
Holy shit, it's so much better.
Yeah, you basically start like, or you basically like some orcs like, hey, you look like you'd be useful for the Horde. Come join us and like, go prove yourself. You know. And
Yeah,
I love.
Almost like it's a actual tutorial where you're like where like young warriors are training to become like part of the Horde, which is pretty cool.
Yeah,
It seems pretty clear that they put more effort into the orc starting zone, the orc and troll one, than they did the gnome and dwarf one. I think it's the same with the human zone, just because those are the defaults.
That might
Yeah,
be
for
true.
sure.
Yeah.
I definitely found specifically in the writing was probably the thing of the actual quest is probably the place I noticed the difference the most. Where every quest felt like it was really trying to establish some sort of like feeling of the world. Like for example, the one quest is like, hey, you should go kill boars. I could tell you to go kill kodos in the kodos are big monstrous creatures in the barrens, but you'd be more used alive than dead. And a lot of these like little like just like cool storytelling. But like these orcs definitely are not the nicest people in the world.
No. That said, like I do like how I like how as you're doing the trials, like some other stuff comes up. I think my favorite quest in the orc starting zone has to be like, so you're going through trials, you're killing some boars, you're doing some like very like first level adventure shit. Killing boars, picking apples, killing some scorpions for their claws. You come across this this troll named what's his name? Is it Hanazua, I think, or is it a different guy?
Sounds right.
It doesn't matter. He's sexy. That's all that matters.
you come across Hanazua.
He sounds like a normal troll.
Yes.
Exactly.
You find a wounded troll tending to his wounds that like he looks like he's in a bad way. You talk to him, and he's a fellow adventurer from the Valley of Trials, another guy who's like going out to prove himself, and he was injured by this big scorpion named Sarkoth, a big mean guy with a giant claw, with giant claws. Who says that before I die, I want to like get this thing's claw. I wounded him, but I want some absolution. You go out for this guy and kill him. Kill the scorpion.
Also note, it's probably the first aggressive enemy you encounter in the zone, which I think is fitting.
Mm-hmm. Yep, you kill the scorpion. Bring the claw back. The troll says thank you, but you know what? Send someone out for me. I want to be part of the Horde. I want to like live through this. You go back, reports that this happens, and like the people there are like impressed that you took some time out of your. And sure, like you're doing MMO quests, you're doing this because it has an exclamation point. The troll has an exclamation point over her head. But like, there's some cool stuff to the fact that like, hey, the orcs there are impressed that you took some time out of your time to like help a fellow warrior in his hour of need. That's cool. That's a nice little like establishing start that like establishes the camaraderie of this, builds to the camaraderie of what the Horde is.
Which is kind of an interesting contrast to how the troll orc relationship is presented in Cataclysm WoW.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a bit, but
Yeah, so I
sorry.
just think, I just but it's just throughout in the individual Valley of Trials. I just think that it's just a fantastic opening shot of these are the orcs are there's someone who care a lot about honor. They care a lot about they're highly militarized people. They're very like, oh, you're here, here's how you can be useful, this sort of thing. But then you sort of like you get to like the kind of individual like interest people. You get like the foreman who like wants you to beat up little peons and then go and find his
Peon quest.
enchanted pick. It's like see these fun little like expressions of the I mean the these orcs are not good people. The Horde is not necessarily a good place, but they like have there's a weird warmth to this whole zone that I don't know I kind of like, and I feel like
it feels very much like harsh but fair culture.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's reflected in the actual, like, also like physical appearance of the place too. We're in a desert, right? The Durotar is a desert, like a craggy desert. Not very much. Like we're picking apples out of cactuses because that's the only way to get some good food in this place.
Yeah,
And it takes way too long to get them out.
Yeah, because they're
so annoying.
They're in a cactus. I think there's this commitment to that the aesthetic of like this harsh world that like these people are like come to, you know, as you know, someone who's played Warcraft 3 is like the orcs, you know, to flee from, you know, Eastern Kingdoms for various reasons, or they saw a vision and they cross over the ocean and they come to Durotar and like, okay, this is like the land of their absolution. It's like, I don't know, it has this very I don't know, Israel like connotation in that regard. Where they come to this land, it's actually like sort of harsh and not that giving, but it's like the orcs like, this is our home now, this is our place.
They carve out a place and they call it theirs because they had no other place. It's very cool. I really love the vibe there. And speaking of like references to Warcraft 3, if you come here from Warcraft 3, I would like heavily recommend you start as an orc or a troll, because like there's so much just good Warcraft 3 references in this zone.
I feel like most of the Warcraft 3 references happen in the Greater Zone, not the Valley of Trials, though.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And as much as good I have to say the Valley of Trials, I honestly don't think Durotar lets down from that beginning. So I think the rest of the zone is really good too. I think in comparison to Dunmorrow, I don't think it has quite the same level of just sheer vibe. Like the zone is a little bit ugly. It's a little bit like, oh, someone clearly went through with like the terrain editor and just like made a bunch of mountains.
Yeah,
and a lot of those just going
through this. I should probably get into this a little bit, but it is known that like the vanilla WoW, a lot of the Kalimdor zones were done kind of last minute, and Durotar was one of them, I believe.
Yes. So the actual zone is really just you walking through one big chasm through this mountainy like deserty place.
Which is Alliance favoritism all the
time. which is a little bit annoying, but I honestly in this zone, because of like the barrenness of it, I don't think it really affects it that much. But it definitely doesn't have the same level of extreme detail like that you have in Dunmorrow. Like you don't have like you don't come into Keranos and find this extremely beautiful inn. There's nothing like that in Durotar.
Did you?
No.
I also felt like it was like in Dunmorrow. Like I didn't play through with you guys, obviously, but I remember always going through and seeing all the little snow rabbits in the snow, and it just like establishes the vibe so well for me. There's like I feel like there's a lack of critters in Durotar. You know?
It's true. There kind of isn't.
Like I don't remember seeing or at least noticing a single one.
There's snakes, little snakes.
Snakes are dumb.
I think here's some hares too.
Yeah, I believe so as well. But yeah, they're definitely less. But I mean, it's just much less alive place.
Though, speaking of the zone's environment, I do like how it is broken up by like a little segment. Because after the Valley of Trials, the next place that you would go naturally is a little troll village down in the southeast called Senjin Village, and I really which gives you a whole bunch of quests to go into a place called the Echo Isles. A bunch of like jungly islands that have like a very different vibe from the rest of Durotar, and they're a little separated from it. And to be clear, some of these quests are awful, much like vanilla WoW.
They're horrible.
Yeah,
that's all I have to say. They're just bad.
There's some problems with the interminable time killing crabs. There's so many fucking crabs we had to kill.
I honestly don't think they were that bad. They were
I
not as
think it
bad
was only
as
bad because we were in a group.
Yeah, the collection quests in Dunmorrow I think were definitely worse.
That's true.
And it felt like
Fair.
and it felt like I don't know more integrated. Like like we got the guy in the mucus because like we have this like witch doctor trying to cook up like he's an apprentice witch doctor trying to like help like build medicine for Senjin village, or like we're killing tigers because the fur is useful for like putting down for
Also-
like their in their huts just to give them like a little bit of warmth and like I don't know
Yeah, that's fair.
and of course similar thing in Delmar where a lot of the things you killed and stuff they were going to like outfit tanks and the like because a lot of Delmar zone was devoted to that fact that it was a very war zone left by the war. Interesting thing about Durotar, it doesn't feel like a world zone left behind the war. It feels like the war is very much there in Durotar.
Oh yeah.
Like we are constantly like in a fate of we got the centaurs, you fight in Sedgen Village, then you have the trolls themselves are got the what's the name of the guy?
Salazane.
Zalazane, who's like
Falzane. Yeah, I mean, because Echo Islands is their original home of the Darkspear trolls,
who's
which
Zalazane
they're
is
trying to reclaim.
who's corrupt as you trying to reclaim these like these really cool jungle like voodoo jungle places, and then you go up north and you find there's like the Quillbor who are just outside of Razor Hill, which is the main orc zone in the area, and then of course you've got the humans off to the side, and then the whole zone's enemy the
Burning Blade,
Blade.
of the Shadow Cow. Yeah, I really, really like the way the Alliance and the Burning Blade are seated in the zone. Okay, so in Warcraft, in Warcraft, there is of course like in World of Warcraft there is the conflict between the Alliance and the Horde takes a big part of like the game in general, and I really like the way the conflict is seated in Durotar. So you go to the southeast. There is there is a fort that is kind of in disrepair. That has been that is kind of in disrepair. That where a bunch of humans from the off-screen nation of Kultiris have taken root with the intent to like go in here and slaughter orcs. You go in there. You drive out something. You kill their leader, and you find a letter that he wrote that basically suggests that they're not stopping. There are factions of humans that will not stop until every orc Durotar is dead. And it really establishes like the sense of like it really establishes like the vibes of these things that like despite the fact that like there are some humans that want peace, there really are just like factions of humans that remember the wars against the orcs, that remember what they were and will never forgive them.
I also, specifically about that question, I really like the reference to Jaina Proudmoore specifically by name, and also the sort of it's like, oh yeah, her father sucks, but the quest giver never specifically like mentions any opinion about Jaina, which you kind of would expect. Like it's like the war chief has this relationship with this human, a platonic relationship to be clear.
Yeah, that's not what the wife
unfortunately
says.
I know, yeah, everyone ships Thrall Jaina, of course, but it's like it seems odd to me that like it's just Jaina's just kind of there as an entity that exists within the orc mind, but at least not in Razor Hill as an adversary.
Yeah,
it's kind of interesting, yeah.
Especially because of how how they generally think of humans and talk about humans within that quest.
And it's really interesting because throughout the zone, we get this very militarized kind of idea of like orc society, and working from you're recruited as grunts, you're working through these like specific trials, and you're becoming a warrior. Like this is very like clear goal. Your goal eventually is to go and fight the Alliance because those are our enemy, right? But like we get this sort of. A couple characters will like mention. Okay, this is something that you only see in the rogue quests in the zone, but like we'll mention. Oh yeah, we're Shattered Hammers. We actually don't like the leadership of Thrall at all. We find him to be like too weak, too too willing to appease. Not interested in like using the power of the Horde to like take over the world basically, and like establish their superiority. So there's this like weird sort of tension there. They have like it doesn't come up all that much, but a few quests you notice that like there is definitely some factions that in the Horde who aren't as interested in this like forever war with the Alliance that as as we sort of get instigated into us through a Northwatch hold. It's funny enough, is the person who leads that actual like position is Thrall himself, the leader of the orcs and the horde. Is himself a moderate who's not interested in a forever war. I find it interesting how, despite the orcs sort of like highly militarized society, you have this pushback that comes from the very top.
It's also really funny because like in their military like patrioticism, like they literally one of the military greeting is what do they say, like Thrall's name and then something else? It's like
I don't recall what
Thrall
you're referring to. Or...
something. Sorry. It's when you click on guards and stuff, you know, when they say their little phrase. One of them is like basically a military greeting that says Thrall's name and then some orcish thing. It's like
I don't think there
really,
is.
there definitely is.
Are you just referring to Loktar Ogar? Because that is a thing. Like that is a, but also I will say there also is like a lot of like a agreement that is literally for the horde. There is a very strong sense of I will say I do agree with that sense of patriotism there. You get that. Like the people who are here because they are here.
Oh, it's Thromka. I was just mishearing.
Thromka. Oh yeah, gotcha.
Sorry guys, sorry.
No, yes. I see how you could mishear that. That doesn't make sense.
I think Thromkar is just well met.
Yeah, it is. It's just funny because it's like Thrall is their leader and they're so patriotic. But Torin already went over that, so
yeah,
it's all good. After you do that, you do some other stuff. You meet up with some goblins, but the biggest and coolest part of the zone, in my opinion, is like sort of the finale. So while Dunmorrow while Vanilla Dunmorrow kind of peters off at the end and just sort of doesn't really have an ending, it just, hey, here's some Trog mines.
I mean, that's
here's
a
feature
of a lot of vanilla zones.
But not Durotar. The ending of Durotar is awesome. I love the ending of Durotar. You go into a cave which is filled with a bunch of these burning blade cultists, demon worshipping orcs.
And to be clear, from the very beginning in the Violet Trials, the final boss of that zone was also a burning blade. So it's like these demon worshipping orcs have been like a really like a core part of the experience of the zone from the very beginning. Even though we have all these different things, we're fighting the centaurs, the trolls, the humans of the Northwatch, the burning blade is always.
It's also literally been part of the orc struggle since the very first game, Warcraft 1.
Yeah, so it's cool that we have this thing succeed throughout the whole. Despite how dense the zone is, we have this line going from the very beginning. But go on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So you do that. You go into this cave. You find the colors of the burning blade for the sake of a shaman. And you find one particularly powerful orc who goes on. You have to who attacks you in the caves. You have to kill him, and if you kill him, you loot a speaking stone. Where you loot a speaking stone where you hear orders. Talking to this orc and talking about hey, we need to evacuate here. We're not safe here anymore. And it mentions specifically a name, Niru Fireblade, which, by the way, is the same person that the shaman sends you to like try to deal with like what's going on with these burning blade callers in Orgrimmar. So Orgrimmar is, of course, the main city of. We haven't really mentioned it so far because, unlike Ironforge, Orgrimmar does not nearly have the same big vibe as Ironforge. Unfortunately, I think it is probably the weakest of the vanilla WoW cities.
Sorry, guys.
It still does a solid job of like establishing the sort of like cut into like the sort of mountains. There's a very good three-dimensionality of the area itself. You're always like going up these different like watchtowers to get to different levels of the city. And it has that same level of like, oh, this is not really a city. This is sort of a military encampment that sort of just spread out.
Yeah. Also, the buildings literally look like the buildings from Warcraft 3. Like yes, it's like
they do.
They're like, but actually, what if we made them 3D and put them in the MMO? So
it's pretty cool.
Like, it's a nice through line. Like I enjoy it.
Yeah, it gives some nice like aesthetic. A nice aesthetic. Congruence with like what came before. The human architecture you run into earlier with at what's it at that little Northwatch hold has has similar things with the town with human architecture that looks like human architecture from the actual games. It's pretty cool. I like it.
I like it too. This one also generally has a lot
looks
more
good.
like musical difference for the same reason, because you have the troll areas, the orc areas, the human area, and so on. There's many more like music, the different bits of music, which is a nice change from Dunmorrow, where you have the entire zone has got one song, which is a good song, but then you have the one Nomergun song, but that's it. That's all you get.
Mhm.
Hey, the Nomergon song's good though. Just saying.
Yes,
Yes,
it's fun.
Yes. So as I was saying, and so you go in there, you find Niru Fireblade, who is very suspicious, like immediately extremely suspicious all the time, who randomly quests you to go into a nearby dungeon. So a nearby dungeon and kill a big demon called Terragammon the Hungerer, who is apparently like, oh, there's some demon worshippers down here. You should go deal with them because they're bad. And
Also nearby, as in literally 5 feet away.
yeah, the instant portal is right next to Niru's house. You presumably, because you're suspicious of all of this, because it's ridiculous, because Niru's whole thing is ridiculously suspicious, and you've already like caught a speaking stone with him, you go and talk to Thrall. If you did this quest line like the zone, like the way it's clearly intended to, you would have seen Thrall earlier, but not talked to him in the little throne room of the Horde, where you find Thrall, a big orc with a who is the faction leader of your faction.
Yeah, he's Noble Jin, but he pretty hot. Like, you know.
You never got to talk to Magni in the dwarf starting zone, but here you are going to talk to Thrall.
Yeah. It's straight. You're not going to talk to any of the leaders for various reasons in the different zones, except for Thrall, and I think that's a really important part of the orc starting zone that is different from the other zones. That speaks to a weird personality that Thrall has, kind of intention with the Horde that is really important to the Horde story.
I think that's also partly because Thrall is very much one writer's favorite character.
Yes.
And because of that, he gets a lot more screen time and a lot like honestly personality and contact with the player because of it.
Which, I mean, I'm fine with that. He's the Horde.
No, it's chill. Like, it goes with how the vibe of the orcs is, but
yeah,
you know, there's also another reason.
Yeah, it's true. That said, like, Thrall is the spiritual and is meant to be the spiritual and like physical redemption of the orcs and the Horde as it could be. Like, that's the whole like through line behind his questline, and he's constantly having to struggle against elements that want to drag it back into what they once were. This is a lot of Warcraft 3, and this is happening here with the demon worshippers that are fighting within their own city. You talk to Thrall. Turns out Thrall totally knows that Niru Fireblade is evil. And like, he's very happy that you brought this to his attention, but he knew that Niru Fireblade is evil, and he tasks you to talk to Niru, pretend to be his ally, and cut out the rot here and destroy the cult that exists beneath the city. And from there, you do a dungeon called Ragefire Chasm. The dungeon's kind of whatever, admittedly, in terms of dungeons. It's a nice
completely whatever. It's literally a cave with fire. That's it.
Yeah, and there's not much aesthetic or variation to it, but I liked the way it like provides a nice little climax to the zone. We're going in there, killing a bunch of these like demon worshippers. The big demon that the big demon and collecting its heart that Nero asks you to do, which presumably because Nero intends to use the heart to like resurrect and resummon the demon, and then you kill the actual leaders of the cult down there. And like you turn the stuff into Thrall, and Thrall is like, very good job. It's all very, very, very good job. You've served the Horde well, and it feels good. It's a nice climax to the zone and provides a nice little way to like throw line towards the next few zones in Barrens and Ashenvale. It's great. Durotar, classic Durotar is a great zone, and I feel like I was too nice to Dunmorrow because of how much better I like Durotar.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, even though it's vanilla, stuff can still be good. Just saying.
Durotar, I don't think is just good for the time. Sorry, you were saying?
I'm less of a vanilla hater than I think you guys are. I think the vanilla zones are
I'm not a vanilla hater.
Better than the Cataclysm zones, but
yeah.
I
but
think
yeah,
I feel like there's a lot less emphasis on good quests and interesting quests in vanilla, which I find boring. Like I think
that's fair.
basically there's 3 kinds of quests and you do them over and over. Cataclysm added way more different things that you were doing.
Sure.
Yeah,
But it speaks of a design philosophy. I think Durotar is a great expression of vanilla design philosophy. It just
Yes,
it's
True.
totally agree.
it sort of just like segments the whole zone into all these different things. You know, it doesn't go into great depth into the actual history of these of the centaurs or the troll voodoo people, whatever they. But it just gives these little ideas through like the environment, through the little bit of questing you do, and through the talking to people. You find as you start to piece all the things together. And I love how they did this here because the Burning Blade, as we know, is not just like this little like demon cult. It's actually just the Shadow Council. It's the most important like it's just a branch of the most important like group of like demon like summoners like in this world or in the other world. If you you know, because they don't come
And
from this
specifically
world itself.
evil orc.
Yes.
Especially if you've ever played Warcraft 2, you will recognize the name Shadow Council, and you will and you will be like, oh shit, they're still around.
Oops.
Yeah, no, I think Durotar is I think classic Durotar is great. It contains a ton of amazing references for people who've played Warcraft 2 and 3. It contains a lot of like just grid like building on what the Horde is. It's a good zone. It still holds up. Like I don't think like classic Don Morrow necessarily holds up to modern gaming like sensibilities. I think Durotar does. I think you could like plop this completely unaltered into like a single player Warcraft game and it would be good as like a starting experience.
Completely agree. And I think also like theme wise, right? I think the issue with Damara, I think, is a lot of the themes felt very unrealized. Like, obviously, there was some level of like weird colonialism going on between the trolls and the dwarves, and there's obviously like supposed to be like the through Ryan loving to the zone, that sort of thing. And it's just like there are cool ideas you can find there, but you have to really go looking for them, and I don't think they crystallize that well. But versus Durotar, where it's like, okay, the main theme, it's everything is so well established. We have a a horde and orc group of people who are like kind of at odds with themselves. They have like a weird relationship with the trolls who they have alliances with, but they definitely have like a weird cultural distinction from them. They keep themselves very explicitly separate. There are almost no trolls in the orc zone, and there are no orcs at all in the troll area as well. And there's this weird sort of like tension here that's spoken at the top with Thrall, who doesn't like have the same sort of like high hyper militarization that everyone else does, and then this is all sort of seeped in through the corruption of the Horde itself, through the members of the Burning Blade, sort of being members of the Horde, and how it
I
just
feel
like
like
speaks to
I
the
could have
ideas
done.
of.
Sorry.
Hey.
I feel like I could have done with actually a little more emphasis on the relationship between the trolls and the orcs, but I'm also spoiled because I just played the Cataclysm one where there's a huge like that's the whole point of the end of the troll zone, like is a big talk between Thrall and Vol'jin. But I definitely agree there's the subtext is there, but I could personally, especially since this is a it's a first zone. It's it's going to be some people's introduction into the game. I think you could have used with a little more textual stuff. Personally,
I think definitely the biggest weakness of Durotar is the trolls aren't super well integrated into the zone.
I personally like that part of it though. I think that speaks to the kind of the area feel. The whole Echo Isle is a really cool, dense area with a bunch of different quests that I feel like are just attached sort of at the side of the zone. And that importance, like sort of like being there, I think speaks to how the trolls are not integrated into like the patriotism of like orc society and this sort of like tension between the patriotism, of course, and the stabilization. Because for example, like the Burning Blade people, like they see themselves as a lot of the time as like putting forward the will of the Horde in some sort of weird, twisted way, right? They're not like these are patriots in the sense of you could argue like you could compare them to like weird right wing traitors, right? It's the same sort of idea, and I think the trolls sort of being an addendum to the zone really works, and especially I think the reason why this works is because of the Sarkoth quest with the guy you save is a troll in the Valley of Trials. So there is these integrations, these people who are trying to join the Horde, or these trolls who are really trying to, serve their people. And like the guy is his quest. He talks about how he feel like, people told me I was never going to amount to anything, that I'm kind of worthless, and I like was feeling like that was true. But then when you like you kill Sarkoth, and he shows that he like what his injury of Sarkoth, the scorpion, is what helps you kill them, gives him like reason to live, reason to actually like go and join the Horde. And this cool integration I fear is like built up from the very beginning of the zone. In a way I really really like.
I like that too. I like the separation between the troll, but I think we could have just done with one like throwaway line in that specific quest when you return to the orc and tell him what you did.
Yeah.
Him mentioning something about that guy being a troll,
For sure. Yeah.
But
No.
I feel like I could have used a little bit more text.
That's fair.
I think this is a good place to start talking about the Cataclysm version of the zone because okay, so they split off the way they did in the Cataclysm version of the zone is the orcs still have basically the same starting zone. There's actually very little to say here other than like there are some mobs that they made non-hostile that should have stayed hostile, which is kind of lame. But overall, the orc zone is basically the same zone. They changed very little aside from like they changed how the NPCs are. They added like one extra quest to introduce the alliance a little early, but like overall, the zone has the same vibe. It works the same way. It's good. It's good. It is the same. It is the same zone. The trolls get something entirely new. So Eowyn, who played the troll, take us away.
Okay, so basically how it works is you enter the troll Echo Islands, and it turns out that the trolls are reclaiming they're reclaiming their ancestral home of Echo Islands that was lost to them during Warcraft 3 when Vol'jin joined the Horde, or joined Thrall. There was no Horde. So you're here, you go through a series of different like little training exercises basically, along with this random dude named Zuni who's also another trainee. And you go and do several things until you get to the end where you fight the Naga who originally kicked the trolls out of Echo Island. Like, she's the one who chased them out. So you literally are standing there with Vol'jin, the leader of the Horde, and you're fighting the lady who kicked them out, the Naga who kicked them out of there, which I think is really, really cool as someone who both adores Vol'jin and really likes Warcraft 3. I thought it was really, really fun way to tie in, like, and sort of solidify the trolls' identity, specifically the dark spears, within the world and within the Horde. After you finish killing the Naga lady, you come back to Senjin Village, which has been basically relocated onto the main Echo Island. And you talk to Vol'jin, and he's like, okay, I'm gonna call Thrall real quick, just to talk about how screwed up the situation is with the Horde and how much I hate Garrosh. You can either stay or go. So basically, you turn in the quest, and then he has a whole conversation with Thrall that you can either leave or stay for, if you care about lore at all. And basically, Vol'jin talks to Thrall. Thrall convinces him, yeah, you should stay in the Horde. So Vol'jin's like, okay, I hate Garrosh, but I guess Thrall always makes the right decisions, which I thought was like, okay, I guess he does. But that's basically the zone, and I really liked the zone. I thought the vibes were really good, like the jungle theming, the reclaiming of the homeland. It all felt very nice to me, very neat. As well as the hard establishment of Vol'jin and Garrosh not getting along, and the trolls feeling very uncomfortable in this new horde that has been sort of created by the Cataclysm era.
Yeah, and speaking to that, Garrosh is because the guy who becomes the leader of the orcs after Thrall leaves during the Cataclysm, when everything blows up and everything goes bad.
Yeah, and Garrosh, Thrall specifically puts Garrosh in charge. Like, this was his choice.
What's really interesting in Garrosh is Garrosh breaks that whole tension of Thrall's sort of quote unquote softness against the kind of militarization of the Horde. Garrosh is hyper militarized. For him, what matters most is military power, showing off the bite of the Horde. He
specifically orcs. He's hella racist.
Yes. And so this is actually it speaks of one thing that I find kind of missing from the zone in Cataclysm, but we can go to this later. But that's that we lose the tension, right? The patriotism of the orcs kind of becomes unquestioned in the Cataclysm zone.
Well, not if you play the Echo Island part.
Yes. No, I think from the perspective of the orcs.
Yes, I will say there is a note from playing the vanilla version and the Cataclysm version. The biggest difference I felt, the biggest and most striking thing was the intro through camera thing was very different. like the vibe of the vibe of the orc, the vibe of the vanilla orc thing is like you are here as part of as part of the redemption of people. You have carved out a name for yourself, and you are here to like help the horde continue to be on its feet and like continue to exist, live, and thrive.
The troll introduction is
Cataclysm
also.
introduction.
Sorry. I just want to make one note. Like for the troll introduction, the narration is a lot less like racially charged in the second one. The first one talks about how brutal and barbaric the trolls are, whereas the third one is like, oh yeah, and the wise trolls are reclaiming their homeland. It's like,
There's kind of okay, so this does kind of get us into coding. The trolls are very much coded as like African, as like native like African and like Caribbean peoples, and
yeah, the Darkspear is specifically very Caribbean.
The treatment of them by the narrative and like the implicit stuff on the stuff, as we talked about a little bit in the Dwarf Zone, is not always great. There's a lot of use of the word savage in a way that is not really conducive to our modern ears, and it's sometimes a little jarring to go through. And
at least Vol'jin's the sexiest person there, you know.
and that's the thing that Cataclysm, I think, like starts to like do more interesting things with the trolls, and then just really comes to head in Battle for Azeroth, which is way later. Where I think, we finally get here's what the trolls are. But yeah, there's definitely
this is the troll expansion there.
Definitely issues with the troll sort of presentation in the early game. But yeah, you talk about
except those bitches killed Vol'jin in Legion. Sorry, I'm still mad.
So back to the to that little fly through. The orc fly through in the orc fly through in Cataclysm is uncomfortably fascist. Yeah. It is like very much like coming into like as proud soldiers of the horde, you have to like claim space and conquer and go forth and conquer so that the orcs may still live. Like, he is very like more brutal, very more militaristic, that I think was meant to go with the vibe of the changing of Thrall to Garrosh. And this gets into my issue with the new version of like Dahlia of Trials from the perspective of an orc. I think it works if you've played the original Durotar. I don't think it's as good of a new player experience by any means.
Oh, for sure. First of all, I really don't like how there are no hostile enemies. It just makes the area feel weirdly like benign. Like you walk through like the demon area, and there's like all the demons just sit there and don't attack you. You're like, okay, that's weird. That's kind of like it's more a mechanical issue that I think like leads into a story play issue of like how it feels.
I think that change happened just because Vanilla was such a harsh place. Like, from a leveling perspective, you died so much more, and I think in Cataclysm they were just trying to make the game much easier.
That's true.
Because they assumed you wanted to get to end game content, and they made everything easier to get you there as fast and easy as possible.
Sure, and that's fine in like a design philosophy thing, but it hurts this zone. Is my
no, I also think it's kind of lame.
Yeah, and all the humans, like, they just feel, I don't know, in the Valley of Trials with the humans there, they just sort of feel like they're there. Like, I think the idea was, we need to hook the kind of idea that we have these like this constant human assault on us, who are like, you know, they're like at our doorsteps. You know, it's just the war from the very beginning. But I just think it's much less elegant sort of way than the way the original one gave you. Is this actually is a Valley of Trials? You're not going to encounter humans or those kinds of people until you leave the valley. The only reason you fight demons early on is because they have so to the core corrupted orc society that you have to encounter them even from the very beginning, where humans are something that's a more kind of out there threat. We're here bringing them into the actual Valley of Trials, I think, is a mistake in terms of like how it takes the beginning area lose that I don't know, that feeling of, I'm a new recruit into the Horde, I'm bringing this thing. Rather, I'm like, you're new here, go and kill these humans who are spying on us. I don't know.
I also think the changes of, like, again, the other humans in Durotar in Northwatch Hold, like, before they were remnants of Admiral Proudmoore's, like force attacking orcs because he's super racist and stuff. And, like, literally in the quest, it's like, oh yeah, all those guys died, and now there's just new humans here, and gives us like no explanation or backstory to these guys. It's like
Hmm.
evil humans. It feels like a lot less nuanced way to introduce like the alliance and horde threat, like
Well,
conflict.
one thing I really,
Pardon.
my favorite part of the Durotar zone that's just changed actually is the actual cataclysm part of the zone.
Yes.
So in the original Durotar, you just like they're quillboars, they're a threat to the orcs. They work fine in what they are because they're sort of a hook into the barons. They're not really part of Durotar, but they just show us one of the many threats that the orcs are dealing with as like a completely unstable society. So that's the way they work in the original Durotar. But I really like how the quillboars sort of were like pushed out of their home, same way as the orcs were when the cataclysm hit and like completely like drowned a large part of the barons in water. And that part, some of those drowning come and like infest the western parts of the Durotar zone. And you go up to this like watchtower and you take you a little spyglass and you look out behind see 3 different like citizens, like 1 troll and 2 orcs, and they're suffering in the zone due to the cataclysm. And you go and your job is to go and tell them all to evacuate, and they all refuse to evacuate for various reasons. Like, oh, there's something really important that keeps me to this land, because Durotar is no longer just a place the orcs have settled in. Durotar has become their home at this point in time, and I really like that as a
And there's also this guy who says, I fucking hate quillboars so much.
Bro, that guy's crazy.
Yes, that guy's weird. But the other 2 guys I like more. Like the troll. The troll is like basically he's a environmentalist.
Bro, he's so cute. I love him.
He's like
Also,
he's trying to
he's
have
like
you.
kind of shirtless.
He's a troll, so everyone likes him.
Yeah.
He has you help you like help with wildlife, and then the most compelling quest there is by far like the orc woman who'd been waiting for her son to come back for a year from the crocodile hunt, and she's like, yeah, I should give up now. He's definitely dead. And so she has you go and kill all the kill some crocodiles for her and make a necklace like that she wants to lay on of crocodile teeth. She wants to lay on his grave, and I love that she has to do that before she goes and is evacuated.
That
I
is
found
pretty
a really,
cool.
really compelling quest. That was I find it really interesting how the cataclysm itself like affects the world in a lot of the ways. I think that like if they had done more, they did basically nothing interesting. But here, I think this tangible element is appreciated. Another element actually.
Sorry, the changes are more at like in the places where things got literally destroyed by the cataclysm. The changes are more interesting. Like the Barons changes are crazy. Obviously, we're not there yet, but
yeah,
like I think that Blizzard did a good job with the changes, like the physical changes in Cataclysm.
Yeah,
I mean, I think it's cool. I think the issue with Durotar here is it's a sequel to the original zone in a way that is cool to players coming back to it from Vanilla WoW, but
yeah,
wouldn't
especially
really
those
mean
amazing
anything.
harpy quests. So different.
There are a few quests that remain completely the same.
Yes. There is one thing I do want to mention. One thing I really liked in the Cataclysm one is they had the quest with you had this shaman like Farseer next to this like hyper like souped up like warrior with this like big like mail armor and a big axe, and he's basically like telling you, oh, you have to go and like slaughter all these people for us, and the shaman's like he like gives you this like sends you on this like let me tell you like an allegorical story.
Fable.
Yes. And it was sort of like simplistic. It's just this wolf like watches the 2 Kodos like fight and kill each other, and then he goes up to try to eat the corpse, and he gets killed by the other one for his like
for his arrogance,
yes,
and laziness.
And obviously this is this orc's way of like indirectly telling you his like disgust with the modern horde. Which I like as a concept, but I specifically like about it is like the way it kind of like integrates like the shamanism of Durotar, and the orcs, that I think the visual zone doesn't necessarily like do so much, which is nice in itself, because this thread of anti-orc, anti-garrosh, like extremist sort of orc society is something you don't really see much of the zone, and this is the one sort of little thing you'd be like, okay, here's an actual like seed of rebellion against that. Yes, except in Echo Islands, of course. Which I find pretty interesting, and it was cool to like actually integrate shamanism into the work and not just through like the shaman quest that the original had.
True.
I feel like my experience was different because I went through Echo Islands. The zone ties together a lot better if you play through the troll zone, I think.
Mm-hmm. Because it actually like goes into like, because you meet Thrall again, and like the thread of like what Garrosh represents is more directly presented there.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
that makes sense. Though my least favorite thing about the zone is it lost the best thing about the original zone. You don't. Hey, remember that last bit where you had like this awesome, like nice little bit of characterization for Thrall, and like going in and like ending with that like little climax thing where you go through the dungeon. Yeah, they took that out. It's not there anymore.
I think some of it's intentional in that the writers don't want you to meet Garrosh yet.
Yeah, but they also completely took out the idea that the Burning Blade themselves are the Shadow Council and all this like sort of like levels of like the corruption of the Horde and all these sorts of things. I think that they completely like ruined the Shadow Council like stuff. All the Burning Blade just feel like another set of orcs we fight. They don't.
Yeah, there's
really
there's no direct reference. Is it there?
No, there's not.
Yeah.
And I really think that really hurts the zone because the zone of Durotar, but it's cool in the original zone because it's really dense. There's lots of going on. There's just you're constantly going through these different like establishing shots of the zone, but it's all brought together through this uneasy patriotism that's presented against the Shadow Council being, of course, people working on that same level of patriotism to corrupt and like destabilize the Horde. And you just losing that, I just feel like hurts the zone because the zone itself is like, oh, the Horde has like gone stronger into patriotism. You should think it would lean even further into those, sorts of those themes and those ideas. But here you just kind of lose that at all.
I think part of the problem is also that Garrosh is the leader of the Horde right now, and Garrosh is a total hypocrite, which makes the zone like the patriotism of the orcs is hypocritical. And the problem with like real people versus like real people who are patriotic and complicated are different than a writer who's trying to emphasize that this patriotism is bad. So I'm going to make these people simplistic, and it's like.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, I think the zone would have been helped a lot if we got to meet Garrosh. Honestly,
I agree. Especially if you could like. I think it would be cool if I think it would be cool if you still ended with the same dungeon as like a similar dungeon as before, and instead of like but instead of the quest being like you have to go like this precise shot and do to kill the leaders, if Garrosh's was these people are betraying the Horde, they must all die.
Because he does that in Stonetown Mountains, in the Cataclysm Zone Stonetown Mountains. Like he does that. I don't understand why they didn't do that in this zone. Like it doesn't make sense. Why wouldn't you want to connect Ragefire Chasm into the zone? Like Dead Mines gets its whole connection in with West. Like, I just don't understand.
Yeah, it's such a shame because. Okay, so I think let's get into our. Do you think we should start to get into the favorites and least favorites?
Yeah, I think so.
All right. So first off, Torin. What is your favorite? So Torin, Eowyn. Actually, I don't know how to do this with 3 people. Who would like to give their favorite thing about vanilla Durotar?
Start with least favorite and then do favorite. You don't want to start with the favorite.
Yeah, you don't want to end on a sour note.
What is your least? All right, we'll do it that way. What is your least favorite thing about vanilla Durotar?
Eowyn.
Sorry, I'm thinking. I didn't know we were gonna do this. No one warned me.
Oh, my apologies.
Ari didn't warn me the other one either. They were just been on me.
I'm just thinking about it. I think. See, I feel like I'm just spoiled by modern gaming in that, like, the fact that the quest it took us like 5.5 hours to get through the entire zone, and not to get through like the juicy lore content and stuff. It's because you just had to kill that many fucking tigers to get 4 pieces of fur. Like that shit pisses me off. Like that's my least like it's a shallow thing.
No,
like that's my least favorite part of the zone.
I think that is a perfectly reasonable thing to like say. Is that
all
like
the collect quests
the
with
quest
low
design
drop rates.
The bad quest design hurts the zone. I think that is a completely reasonable thing to say here.
Yeah.
Torin, what is your least favorite thing about
fucking random goblin we run into when we're walking to Orgrimmar? I don't understand. Like we just like walk into Orgrimmar, like, hey, kill some hopper harpies for me and get my supplies back. And you're like, okay. Like I understand they were trying to integrate like goblins because the goblins are gonna be really important going into the crossroads and just they have an important relation. The barons have an important relationship with the Horde, but just It's just so badly integrated.
If you
it's
don't,
terrible. It feels so stuck on. It's awful.
Yeah. If you
And
don't already
it's-
if you haven't played Warcraft 3 and already know who Gazlo is, the name doesn't mean anything to
Yeah,
you.
actually, they
Yeah, and they don't tell you who Gazlo is. Like, why wouldn't you just mention why he exists? You know? Ugh.
Yeah, and it's frustrating me. I think it stands out to me because every other part of the zone feels so dense and like well integrated, and that just pops up and just like, okay, I guess this is happening now.
All right, I guess that comes to me. I think Eowyn, you kind of took what I was going to say, but let me see if I can think of something else. My least favorite. No, it's completely reasonable. My least favorite thing about vanilla Durotar is probably just the zone design itself. I think the zone itself could like use some touch ups in terms of like you just kind of like run all the way over here and then you run all the way back over here, and I don't think it has as interesting a layout to explore compared to Dunmore. So I think that's going to be my least favorite thing about vanilla Durotar is just like I think it doesn't quite have the vibe there, and I think the zone itself is laid out in a way that is not particularly appealing or conducive to what it's trying to do.
Yeah, I agree. It definitely like I wish they put more time into making it a pretty zone.
What I wish they didn't spend so much time like on. I wish that they had made it a smaller expansion to start. There was less of the game to start it, so that there could be like more effort put into what's there. But that's Vanilla WoW was too big. What is your favorite thing about Vanilla Durotar?
My favorite thing about Vanilla Durotar is, so I am a big fan of Jaina. Like, whenever her name is mentioned, I get excited. I really liked the integration of the Admiral Proudmoore and Jaina Proudmoore with the humans at Northwatch Hold, and the establishment of the conflict between the Alliance and the Horde, especially because that's such an important part of World of Warcraft as a whole. Like, the PvP is a big thing. So I really enjoyed that, and I thought that was a very good establishing shot of that, especially when compared to how they did it in the Cataclysm one, which was not so good.
Torin.
My favorite part of Vanilla WoW Durotar? Probably. This is sort of a vague thing, but I just really liked how integrated the burning blade was throughout the entire zone. How it was just this thing. It wasn't, you didn't have that many quests with the burning blade, but the fact that they're always like in the corner of your mind, like that's where you're going to. Wow, you're doing all these constant threats, and they're like you're really going to this one idea, this one threat that is like so well integrated into like the issues with patriotism and like the militarism. I found that just a really compelling concept.
It was very cool.
For me, I think I'm gonna have to say the finale, the like going into the cave, like uncovering Niru Fireblade's treachery, going to Thrall and like being like tasked to really like eliminate the leadership of this cult down there. It's cool. I love this. I love the way that was done. Cataclysm Durotar. What is your least favorite thing about Cataclysm Durotar?
Me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is Torin's least favorite from the other one, from Vanilla, but I was gonna say just the stupid Harpy quest that remains exactly the same, and the way he talks, like it's terribly integrated into it, and he talks about Gazlo, and it's like, I mean, the quest design is slightly better, slightly more convenient, but it's still exactly the same as it was. Super boring, badly integrated.
It is weird that of all quests to keep in completely unchanged, why that one?
Yeah, what the fuck?
Very, very strange idea. It's like it's not like harpies are an important enemy like in WoW history. Like they're by far the least interesting and important enemy in the zone. I don't know.
It's stupid.
So First one I mentioned something that I appreciate about this before I say my favorite part. I really appreciate about the zone compared to say the Dunmorrow Cataclysm. I think this Cataclysm version of the zone is much better than the Dunmorrow Cataclysm version of the zone, their zone, but specifically because I don't get that kind of roller coaster feel that I was so frustrated with Dunmorrow. Like it still feels like you're adventuring. You've got this like level of peace. You've got moments of like respite where you're like working through the world. It feels much more like an integrated world than the Cataclysm. Now, on that note. What I really didn't like about Cataclysm Durotar was just the fact that the Aqua Isles were taken out as a questing part for like the orcs. I don't know. It just feels like I lose such an important part of the experience and lore of the
You
like
definitely
zone.
do,
Mhm.
because like I feel like mine was completely changed because I played through Echo Island.
And like without the Echo
Mhm.
Islands, without having the quest with the Zalazane and the corrupted trolls, the thing it just like plus the fact that they took out the centaurs from that area of the map and they just like placed them with humans, it just makes the whole zone feel so much less diverse and interesting. Like it feels like so much more two dimensional what we're doing, and it doesn't really replace it with anything that I find compelling.
And I think that gets into my least favorite thing about the zone. There's a couple things I could pick, but I don't want to just pick. They took out the best part of the zone. God damn it! No, I instead I'm going to go with the thing that they kind of left in but changed a little bit, which was the conflict between the Alliance and the Horde. If you're a new player playing this zone, you don't fucking know why like the humans like are here and fighting the orcs so much. I mean, aside from like the fact that the orcs are like doing vaguely fashy things, but like you don't fucking know. There's no like real like building stuff. You're just like humans are a problem. They keep being like encroaching on our lands. You need to kill them. And it's just like, okay, why? What's the narrative here? What's going on? There was a narrative to the presence of the humans in Durotar in vanilla that's just not here in Cataclysm Durotar. That is, I think, my least favorite thing. The way the which the Alliance Horde conflict is put in here. And personally, I think this is a problem in Cataclysm in general, is that it tries to ramp up the war between the Alliance and the Horde in a way that also like strips it away of a lot of its actual meaning. And I think here is like a really good example of like why it does not work here.
Yeah.
What was your favorite thing about Cataclysm Durotar?
I talked about it a little bit earlier, but my favorite part is definitely the conversation between Vol'jin and Thrall at the beginning of at the end of the troll starting zone. It's just such a good launch, like solid launch into what this expansion is about, especially on Kalimdor. Like and specifically Garrosh's character and how he treats the Horde and how he looks at the other races within the Horde. It's also pretty well established, like sorry, this is talking about Silvermoon, but like the conversation between between Garrosh and Sylvanas is also another good establishing shot for that. But I thought it was really fantastic, good callback to what was before and how things have changed, and just a really good launch into Cataclysm for me.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, it has Vol'jin, the sexiest boy. He's also my favorite part.
All right, Torin.
So my favorite part of the Cataclysm Zone, honestly, a lot of it just feels like a worse version of the Durotar Zone. It's pretty decent, like a lot of it. Like I don't like hate it or anything. I think it works, but a lot of it just feels like the original Durotar. It's just a more compelling zone in a lot of ways. But the one area that I was really like compelled by was the Cataclysm Coolware area. I just found the experience of like spying on those people, those people looking out like the ruined area, just like finding the people who we need to encourage to evacuate. It felt like a bit of like warmth in a zone it's very like militaristic and like lacking in that warmth that I really appreciate. I feel like the zone needed.
Interestingly, I'm actually going to bring out the opposite thing because I think because again, I'm going to say this zone works best if you've already experienced it from the orc perspective, which is why I played it from. This zone works best if you've already played the vanilla version of Durotar. And I think the best of my favorite thing about Cataclysm Durotar is probably going back to Orgrimmar for the first time since you like started the expansion and seeing the way it has changed, metal and spikes, and the way it has been built up into this like absolute fortress of a city from like its caverning thing, seeing the way it's developed into this like massive industrial military scary thing in it. It's kind of
Okay,
cool
but
to see.
why do you put spikes on a building? What is that for?
They're fucking cool. That's why you put kites in the building.
The
They
menace.
said, let me allocate some extra metal for this. I know it's gonna be expensive and it's impractical, but
Eowyn,
guys, we're gonna look so fucking cool.
Eowyn, you've
Bruh.
played Warcraft 3. You know what the spikes are for. The spikes are there to make melee attackers take damage upon attacking the building. We've played Warcraft 3.
It's so silly.
Regardless, yes. I think that is probably the coolest thing. Like, again, I do not like Cataclysm Durotar as a Cataclysm Durotar as a starting zone for like someone like coming into the game completely blind. I do like a lot of it from the perspective of as a sequel to the original Durotar. In terms of like that stuff, anyway, I don't think it totally works necessarily, but like, I think that is I like it from that perspective a lot better. Now, first off, Vanilla Durotar. Did you like that zone? Would you recommend people who were like coming into like classic WoW start as an orc?
Oh, I adore it. I think it's like actually a really good zone. Like not just like I liked it. I think it's like actually just a great zone. I would recommend anyone playing that zone. No question.
Agreed. I would definitely recommend it. I definitely like. There's some nostalgia involved in my recommendation, but playing through it even now, like as an adult, I think it's really fun and a great introduction to the world as an orc.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think that like I would heavily recommend if someone like were to come into classic WoW and like had like friends who were playing classic WoW or whatever, and like weren't specified for like what race they were going to play. Orcs and trolls, I would recommend over dwarves and gnomes, unless their friends are playing like Alliance, and because you can't interact with Alliance players at all, it's kind of the original sin of the game.
You can interact with them. You can kill them if they have PvP.
Yes, but regardless, yes, I think this zone is great. I think I would recommend it. Would you recommend What about Cataclysm Durotar? Would you recommend Cataclysm Durotar?
Yeah, I would. I like Cataclysm. I'm not going to say I don't think it's a great zone the way the original is, but I still think it's a good zone that I like and enjoyed playing through, and I think it's a solid place to start.
Really?
Yes, for sure.
I would recommend it because obviously you have to look at Vol'jin, stare into his eyes.
Right.
All joking aside, I think it's still fun. And especially if you play from the troll perspective, I think it's a good snapshot into what Cataclysm WoW was trying to achieve.
That's fair. I didn't really like the way the orc version of the zone worked, but I think I would have liked it a lot better if I played a troll instead of an orc for this one. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but because I played an orc and my perspective is from that, my recommendation, I can't in good conscience recommend this zone. I think this is the I think this zone is bad. I'm sorry. I think this zone is flavorless and dull.
What? Ogremar isn't flavorless and dull.
Got big spikes.
Yeah.
All right, so
they're sharp. They're sharp,
That's
not dull.
the spiciest possible architectural picture. Spikes.
Regardless, what is our that'll wrap us up for Durotar.
Yeah, God, I'm so much happy that I watched it. This zone is so much better than Dunmorrow. Just like across the board, both zones.
It is.
I don't know.
Hey, okay, we'll talk about that later. But what's our next zone that we're going to now? What is our next zone?
Eldrasil.
It is not, in fact.
No, it's
Aw.
Elwyn Forest. We're doing
But I
alphabetical.
wanted to play a Night Elf.
We're
not doing that yet. All right, so we've played as the sort of default race for the Horde. Now we'll play as the default race for the Alliance.
Wait,
Humans.
why did you guys start with Dunmorrow?
It's alphabetical.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Dunmorrow is alphabetically before Durotar, so we're going like basically level by level and introducing. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, we forgot to tell you that because
It's okay. I'm an add-on anyway.
But yeah,
My siblings don't love me, guys.
You are a core part of the podcast, and you will be part of it from now on.
Anyway, we should. I think that's all. Thank you guys.
All right, thanks for listening, and we'll see you. And we'll see you in another episode of Wowed by Zones.
The podcast where we're wowed by zones, not zoned by wows.
Stop! He's doing this.